If you take a look about large language models, whether you think about ChatGPT or a Claude, they doesn't work, out of the box effectively in complex organizations. I mean, they have different people with different objectives, different workflows, and so what you need is the ability to provide the right context layer given the enterprise users' business use case. We help build the contextual, what we call the semantic layer. We would take all kinds of data that a company has. We connect the dots across all of those pieces of data, so that when AI agents actually are asked a question, they are getting the right data they need to be able to answer the question correctly. And so doing that in a way that is safe, secure, has the right permissions, that's really what the company is about. Data silos are the number one challenge that not only AI has, but also we have in building the context graph. And one of the things, language models are very effective in being able to, they are a fantastic perception layer. They can look at different kinds of data and actually make sense of it once I know what kind of vertical I'm in or what kind of like a business use case it is, right? And so you can build those things much faster than before. This has become a topic for the boardroom. The pressure is coming from the board, it's coming from the external market, and so CEOs are interested in it. And so what that means is that if you have the backing of the top management, I think you can overcome some of those challenges. The challenge is that people's concept of AI is like using ChatGPT, for example. But see, and so just saying, okay, let's give everybody ChatGPT access to ChatGPT, and that's somehow going to become AI centric. That's not going to work. Like assuming that you can just throw a chatbot at a problem and solve it. You really have to think about data foundations, and you have to start working towards that. And so those are the bottlenecks that we have to sort of unclog in a sense to make enterprise AI useful. This needs more work. I think enterprise adoption at the level that we are thinking about is going to be slower than, let's say, consumer adoption, but it's not going to be that far out. I would say that, I give it, let's say another, by 2030, I would think that we are going to make much more progress. And I want to be part of that revolution. That now, because of the agentic revolution, there is this big thing about like, hey, we can all go apply AI agents to everything, and so somehow it's all going to like, magically all the tasks are going to get done. Unfortunately, although agents are very powerful, the challenge is that there is definitely an issue with governance. There is an issue with trustworthiness, and of course security, as we have been hearing a lot. Getting started the right way with context and so on. And the next step is when we actually deploy agents, we have to have the right governance mechanisms, the right security. Saying there's a misconception that we are going to have fewer software engineers in the future, or we're going to have fewer, analysts in the future. In fact, what is going to happen is certain specific tasks that people do are going to get automated. More and more work is going to get generated, and eventually, so I think one of the predictions was there are probably going to be more lawyers, not less, simply because at the end of the day, anybody can create like a contract document, but there has to be a lawyer who has to come in and actually verify and validate that at the end. And now, if you had right now we have 1 million documents, we're going to have 10 million of those because anybody can create a legal document now. So, which means that the sheer volume of what we're going to face is a lot, and there is going to be the bottleneck is going to shift to like there are certain tasks that only humans can do. Those tasks will be the most valuable for human beings to do. We ourselves, our curriculum is not pivoting hard enough to actually, is fast enough to account for some of these changes that are happening. I think both ends have to happen, where individuals have to start thinking more about like, okay, where can I get this information about how to use these tools? On the other hand, I think institutions of every kind, and there are going to be more and more new institutions come up, which are going to be delivering sort of like, education on these dimensions. So I think everybody needs to have an organization-wide AI strategy that accounts for decision-making at every level, which is the strategy, the middle management. There's this questions about, okay, what's going to happen to middle management? Are they going to even be around? There has been a tendency over the last few years, ever since ChatGPT was released, for most AI evaluations to be based on generic benchmarks. The challenge with all of those is that those don't translate well to a truly enterprise context. I would say in an enterprise context, if I'm a financial analyst, what am I really looking for? I want what I call the ABC in my book. I'm looking for accuracy of responses. I'm looking for brevity of responses, which is basically I don't want a full story. I want something. Here's a question. Here's a problem I want to solve. Give me a concise answer, right? So brevity of responses, and C is consistency. That the AI actually responds consistently when I ask the same question. It doesn't wake up on a different side of from the side of the bed and give me a different response. As an enterprise person, I would not buy into any evaluation that is simply, oh, I could solve a math problem better. Well, if your job is solving math problems, yes, that's great. But that's not great for if you're a financial analyst or a lawyer, you're going to drill down to, different verticals. You're going to come up with like more specialized versions of that in different verticals, different business functions. If AI can do the actual grunt work, then it's all about the storytelling, right? But you can also change the storyline, right? I can say, okay, I want to change the story. I want to make this modification, and it'll change it and it'll do that. It's not about a particular job going away. It's about certain tasks within that job going away, and so then really then emphasize the tasks that are the most relevant to you as a human, right? So my judgment call as what the story should be is still pretty important. So I think yeah, so because ultimately I am accountable for like the story I tell to my customers.